right. Like starting late to throw you off your game. Welcome everybody. I do apologize for being late. Actually, there's nobody here live to say that to. I'm not even sure why I bothered, but here we are. I was making a juice and I guess the time got away from me. So there it is. So tell you what, I'm going to do my usual process here in the background while we get going here. Hope everyone's having a great what is today? Friday. Yes, you can tell that the struggle is real at this point. It is it, it sometimes takes a little bit when you're doing a fast of any kind of intensity that you might have some occasional brain fog. It comes back eventually. But there's these days. That's actually why I usually start this process on a Wednesday. What I've found is by about Friday, Saturday, you're having those moments of bleh, so it's important to recognize that and be ready for it. So this is the reality. But I am feeling good. So just letting you all know. Actually, yeah, we'll talk about more of that towards the end there. But anyway, let's start with a bit of prayer. Father God, thank you so much for today. Thank you for all the health and all the things that you brought our way, and the wisdom that is there for the taking. All we need to do is ask or read, and it's there. So, Father, as we do so today, I ask that you would transform the words on the page, that they would may be a blessing and an honor to us, that we take this into our lives and bless others with it. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen. All right. Well then, diving straight away in, or more or less. It's like a weird pathway to get there, but Proverbs 16, reading from the Message translation this morning. Everything with a place and a purpose. Mortals make elaborate plans, but God has the last word. Humans are satisfied with whatever looks good. God probes for what is good. I like that highlight there. God put God in charge of your work, and then what you planned will take place. Ooh, okay. We're gonna come back to that one. God made everything with a place and a purpose. Even the wicked are included, but for judgment. God can't stomach arrogance or pretense. Believe me, he'll put those braggarts in their place. Guilt is banished through love and truth. Fear of God deflects evil. When God approves of your life, your enemies will end up shaking your hand. Far better to be right and poor than wrong and rich. And yeah, once again, we have several passages that I usually end up highlighting every translation, but it is because sometimes I just need to hear the words multiple times in my life. Um, Especially verse 3 here, the put God in charge of your work. What you plan will take place. It it's a weird dichotomy when you think about it, that you're doing the planning, but God's in charge of your work. It to the uninitiated, I suppose that would seem like, oh, I can tell God what to do. Not exactly that's the way they're working, is it? It's more of that when you have God in charge of your work, then your plans reflect His will. And so, um, if that's not the case, then what you planned will not take place. That's the dichotomy here, and so it's a very interesting notion, and that's something that is a big part of my fasting right now. Actually, is where my work is taking me, and so this is an important reminder to not scheme, not make plans of my own, but to seek God for those plans. Um, yeah, let's continue on. Oh, I was very close to the end of that section. Uh, we plan the way we want to live, but only God makes us able to live it. Verse 10, a good leader motivates, doesn't mislead, doesn't exploit. Like that. God cares about your honesty in the workplace. Your business is his business. Getting some gold today, aren't we? Good leaders abhor wrongdoings of all kind. Sound leadership has a moral foundation. Good leaders cultivate honest speech. They love advisors who tell them the truth. An intemperate leader wreaks havoc in lives. You're smart to stay clear of someone like that. Good tempered leaders invigorate lives. They're like spring rain and sunshine. Get wisdom. It's worth more than money. Choose insight over income every time. The road of right living bypasses evil. Watch your step and save your life. Getting some good stuff here. And we've seen this one in other translations, obviously. First pride, then the crash. Bigger the ego, the harder the fall. I like that translation, though. It's better to live humbly among the poor than to live it up among the rich and famous. It pays to take life seriously. Things work out when you trust in God. A wise person gets known for insight. Gracious words add to one's reputation. True intelligence is a spring of fresh water, while fools sweat it out the hard way. They make a lot of sense, these wise folks. Whenever they speak, their reputation increases. Gracious speech is like a clover of honey, or is like clover honey. Good taste to the soul, quick energy for the body. There's a way that looks harmless enough. Look again, it leads straight to hell. Again, a very common one right there. Appetite is an incentive to work. Hunger makes you work the harder. Mean people spread gossip. Their words smart and burn. Troublemakers start fights. Gossips break up friendships. Callous climbers betray their own friends. They'd stab their own grandmothers in the back. A shifty eye betrays an evil intention. A clenched jaw signals trouble ahead. A gray hair is a mark of distinction, the award for a God loyal life. Moderation is better than muscle, self control better than political power. Make your motions, cast your votes, but God has the final say. It's the November verse right there. There's some good stuff in this particular proverb, isn't there? Um, a lot of words for those who lead and advice for how we work that is really good. Um, but I like this here. The humans are satisfied with whatever looks good, and we've talked about this a lot, and it's a common theme, and I think it needs to be that we often go with appearances, and our world definitely goes with appearances. We seem to be obsessed with like apologies. We don't seem all that concerned with consequences, if that makes sense. We very much look at the whatever looks good on the surface, and so we kind of just polish it up, and it is good. But God knows what is good. So the very next thing is to put God in charge of your work. I think that's actually kind of cool. That yeah, yeah. I go around in a lot of like uh, small business owner, digital entrepreneur, solopreneur kind of circles, and I I do find that this lives itself out in a lot of those kind of things where you see the people that are very much trying to keep up appearances, that are very much like the want to be the take me seriously kind of thing, and any of others that are genuine and really want to be doing good something good for the world, and a lot of them do put God first, and you can tell. And so that's just something I just, yeah, I would rather be that, even if it's not a lot of financial success or necessarily whatever that's not driving it. It's more of just making sure that God is front and present in everything I'm doing, including my work. Um, the other thing in verse 5, the reason I highlighted that is a lot of times we see things going on in the world, all the arrogance and pretense, and we think God is just tolerant of that. But again, either by punishment or by them punishing themselves, they end up in their place, is what that's saying. But the believe me part is a good word there, because I think sometimes we we want to be the arbiter of that justice. We see nothing happening, and so we think we need to be doing something, and that is not the case. So yeah. Anyway, far better to be right and poor, you're wrong and rich. And you know what? I think a lot of the wealthy people that I know, that I actually have spent significant time with because they're attractive people to be around. Those I would say would agree with this, even if they are wealthy, even if they are rich. Um, and it is just an attitude. It's not saying you need to stay poor to be right. That's not what this is saying. It's saying it's better to be on the right side of justice, on the right side of wisdom, than it is to be on the wrong side and benefit from it. That's pretty. Uh, yeah, we get that twisted sometimes, but consider the order of that statement. um, and as someone who is feeling that call to be more of a leader myself, whatever that means, in business or in whatever speaking and all these things that I'm doing, it's very important for me to take these all very seriously. That this is something that's like, yeah, there's a moral structure here that is very important, and I think that a lot of us need to look for this in our leaders too. We need to be honest about this and say what are they are they just out on their own? Like verse 13 here is very critical for me. Is a leader somebody who is out on their own? In fact, I had some concerns at one point about a church that I was attending, and I noticed that the pastor was not really getting counsel. And so I confronted him on that. I was like, I don't see that you have a group of advisors or elders. And you know what? We formed one. Out of that conversation, we realized that there was correction there, and so, but that's something that's necessary for a good leader. Is they need good advisors that are willing to confront them and call their baby ugly, as the expression goes. They need that. And so, I'm not saying that you should be that person that's like trying to correct everything about the pastor's sermon every Sunday. That's not what I'm saying in the slightest. In fact, I don't even know if that's ever really appropriate unless they're obviously speaking ill truth. But advisors are somebody that the leader is asking to advise them, not being initiated the other way around is usually the way that works. So it's a delicate balance. I'm sure there's nuances there, but for me, it also means that I need to be always seeking out counsel of others, which I do on a regular basis, almost too much. So I'm finding that I need to step into identity of leadership, not just of being led. And so it takes more than just being advised all the time. It takes some doing. Um, yeah. They make a lot of sense, these wise folks. Whenever they speak, their reputation increases. Um, I highlighted that because it is something where there's a lot of in the world of social media, especially. There's a lot of manipulation and things like that that people are doing to try and bring themselves to the forefront because it is very difficult to be heard. But I'm very much trying to walk in a path of saying, it doesn't matter. It's more of just whenever they speak, their reputation increases, and it's more just like just just keep at it, just keep at it. I was watching a oh gosh, what was that? It was a something from the House of Representatives, and a person was giving an impassioned speech with lots of he had a little you know um, what do you call those like boards with all the diagrams on them to demonstrate what he's talking about, and he mentioned at some point that he was feeling very discouraged, and the camera panned out sometime after that, and you see that he's speaking to a pretty much empty room, which infuriated me to no end, by the way. But he also mentioned that it's okay. I used to just be in a room of 10 people and saying this, and I kept saying it. And now we're reaching, it may not be a bunch of people in this room, but there's a lot of people watching on YouTube and things like that, and the message is getting out there. And I really thought that was significant, that whole sticking with it and being willing to speak truth. And honestly, I think that speaks to a lot of our lives as well, of saying, what, there's a level of when we know something, we're convicting of it. We can't just stay silent even if nobody's listening. It's important to be consistent and keep saying it and keep going. Hard, very hard, especially if you do things like I have done in mistakenly in the past of tying my livelihood to it. Very, you can be a lot of damage there if you're not ready for it, if it's not being put in front of you that way. Um, but there's an important thing of just being willing to speak and doing that. Yeah. So there's lots of good stuff here. Yeah, don't gossip. Yeah. You know what? I do like this one. Appetite is an incentive to work. Hunger makes you work all the harder. Um, we miss things like that sometimes. Um, yeah, we just don't think that we respond to like challenges as motivation. We respond to challenges as suffering. I'm reminded of wasn't a passage. It was actually something that was just said to me, and it was a comparing the way Americans pray versus certain other cultures, certain other churches, and the distinction was that Americans pray for a relief of burdens. People in some other countries pray for stronger backs. And I thought that was really powerful. That we need to not be praying for a relief necessarily. When something's put in front of us and we don't feel up to it, we need to be praying for a stronger back. When we're challenged, that's where we grow. And again, that's why I am doing this period of fasting. By the way, that's a big piece of this is always being willing to challenge myself and accept that and make it into a process where um, I am like desperate in a way. It's like realizing that I have gaps. And you know I think appetite being an incentive to work. I mean that's pretty dramatic. Um, but it's also sometimes it's a financial appetite as well. That you have things that need to be happening there, and you got a lack. Well, you can whine about it, or you can get to work, um, and so that hunger drives you all the harder. So that's a concept there for you. Anyway, so an update on where I'm at on the fasting. Um, Today, obviously, continuing on with the juicing, um, the reducing reducing mental activity. I might as well just put it that way as well. But yeah, this is something where I had already kind of reduced my physical activity. If I'm being completely honest with you, I wasn't really doing much. So yeah, but if you are, somebody who's doing this along with me, my advice is to look at reducing your load. And the reason I say that is because when you're taking in just juice and things like that, you're potentially reducing the amount of uh, and it's not just about calories. There's other things that are going on in the body that are important to note. And so as your body's transitioning into more of the ketosis state and more of the um, uh, yeah, just a different way of operating, um, it needs to reset a little bit, and that's the whole part of this process is doing a reset. And then obviously tomorrow, Saturday for me, is going to be one of those things where it's like, if you got to sleep, just sleep. And that's why, again, I usually typically start these kind of things on a Wednesday, is because it allows you that much easier for most people to do. Now, some people need to adjust this when this happens. Um, and honestly, for for some fasting, this is not necessary. For some types of fasting, it really isn't as extreme. Juice only fasting is one of those things where you're basically doing a lot with your body, your digestive system. You're taking away all the proteins, all the fibers, all that kind of stuff, and it's pretty much just the nutrients that are left, all the vitamins and minerals and that sort of thing. But so it's really just a different way of processing, and your body just needs some time to recover for that and to kind of adjust. And so you're giving yourself that process. So yeah, there's that. One of these days, I just need to just get this all written down. I was looking at my notes today and like, man, I have a ton of notes, and they're all kind of just in various spaces. And I'd written this down at one point, but it wasn't really uh, it was the right format. Let's put it that way. Actually, I was going over my notes on that today and kind of triggered some emotions for myself of what. Oops, yikes! What did I do? There we go. I of a time that I was working on a book for fasting and put a call out in a entrepreneurial circle of mine and was kind of bullied about it. But they did it in a very subtle, very sneaky kind of way of making themselves out to be the victim for what I was saying, which is ridiculous, and we all know it. But it was one of those things where it's like I got I get derailed by that. I wasn't quite ready for it, and so that's been something that's been hard to recover from. The knowledge that you know this is something where Satan hates this stuff. Satan hates fasting. Prayer and fasting is what allows demons to be cast out. We know that Jesus said that. So yeah, he doesn't like it, and he'll come against it every way he can, and so it makes the process all the more important to have um, constantly up here and reminding yourself of why you're doing it and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's important stuff. Yeah, I think what I need to do now is get on out of here. I'm actually, ironically, and I'm hoping this isn't going to affect anything, but I'm actually going to see my cardiologist. And so, um, sometimes when you do like reduced calorie fasting, it can actually spike your blood pressure a little bit. So far, my measurements have been good though, so I'm hopeful for that. And yeah, sharing way too much information, but that's okay. That's what I do. All right, everybody. I hope you will have a great day, and I'm glad there were some good words and reminders, good stuff. And I will talk to you tomorrow, 8:30. Hopefully, right at 8:30 this time. Hopefully not getting distracted and getting late, but I will see you at 8:30 as we do always for we'll be reading Proverbs 17 tomorrow. So I will see you then. Until then, be blessed by the best and then be a blessing to all the rest. Love you guys.